Even with this partial information, if any body of men chooses to think that this is the final thing in nature and nothing beyond it, what can I say to such fanatics? I can predict this, that during the investigation of the brain, even through the methods known to science, they will come across surprises which will change their whole concept of nature. Even during their course of normal investigation of the brain, they know nothing about the brain yet. They know nothing about the energy yet. The energy with which we talk, with which we think, with which we calculate. It has been a fatal blunder of science during the past 2 centuries, and the result is the present explosive condition of the world. It is really a paradoxical position. Ask any psychologist or any psychiatrist, what is the nature of this energy? How does it function? And a simple question, how is organic energy transformed into psychic energy? And he will not be able to answer you any question. But they are presuming certain things. This is mere speculation. And once research on Kundalini is started, all these very huge edifices, if not all of them, at least many of them will fall to the ground, and it will be found that one life energy animates all the forms of creatures on earth, and that it is a bewildering energy. It is staggering. It is something which our intellect cannot grasp. This will be the first result of an investigation of Kundalini. See, if they do not choose to see it now, as regards how the sex energy can go to the brain, there is a definite connection between the brain and the sexual organs. I read recently a book, The Brain Revolution by Ferguson, and in it there is mentioned that recent research has shown that there is an area in the brain which, when touched, gives the sensation of orgasm. She has mentioned it in the book, The Brain Revolution. Also, scientists have not to seek for, even in any case of enlightenment, they will see the energy going upward. And I think any physiologist can mark this, that at the time of the orgasm, instead of going outward, the energy has been absorbed. There is a way to mark an orgasm. I think Reich has, there is some electrical discharge or something. They can verify that an orgasm has occurred, but they can also see that no emission has taken place and the energy has been sucked up. I do not think a greater proof is needed for them to agree to what I say. And it is not only in my case. I can at least cite 10 cases or more from the West in which this phenomenon of an inward orgasm has been noticed, prelude to the awakening of the Kundalini.
This ties in directly with the imagery that mystics throughout history in all spiritual traditions have used to describe their mystical experiences. Imagery based on sex and sexual experience. You are proposing that there is a biological linkage which will explain mystical experience, insanity, biological mysteries, mysteries of physics, and psychic research. This is a revolutionary concept.
Yes.
But you say that you have definite indications for science on how the testing and research can proceed in all these areas.
I think I will be able to guide to a large extent, as far as I can do with my limited capacity. I can give the areas and the methods, and also what changes can be expected on the arousal of Kundalini. And then it will be for the scientists to perform those experiments. They are even thinking on those lines in India, how to approach this subject, what experiments to make. And also there is a huge amount of documentary evidence in the mystical literature of India, which can be seen and examined at any time.
The prevailing view in Western psychology is that mystical experience is an aberration of mind largely associated with, if not due to, repression of sexual experience, sexual energy. You are taking a paradoxical position and saying that mystical and religious experience is really unfulfilled sexual experience. In other words, the lower end of the spectrum is normally functioning sexually, but this can be turned into, it has the potential to become mystical and produce an enlightened being.
See, there is not only the Indian tradition, but read the Taoist books of China, read the Sufi literature, and even the Western mystical accounts, and you will find that sexual ideas and sexual imagery is intermixed with their descriptions of higher consciousness or with their mystical experiences also. The reason is because the sensation, the orgasm, which occurs as the climax of sexual union, also occurs in the brain on the arousal of Kundalini, just in the Sahasrara, the highest center in the brain. And it continues to occur for some time. And finally, in place of orgasm, you have now a bubbling fount of happiness. It is for this reason that mystical experience, according to the Indian masters, is designated by the word Sat Chit Ananda, existence, consciousness and bliss. It is now a bubbling fountain of joy. The substance used is the same, but it is now transformed into ojas or psychic radiation which feeds thought, which feeds our consciousness, and then the whole consciousness is transformed and the yogi blooms as one who is now in touch with another dimension of life which is full of joy and light. The thing is the same.
Pandit, many people are seeking spiritual advancement, spiritual growth today, and in this process of searching, they are coming again up, they are finding many areas where there's diversity of opinion. I'd like to ask you a series of questions which are designed to give advice to spiritual seekers.
Good.
First of all, are you yourself a guru, and what words of advice do you have for people who are seeking a guru?
Guru in Sanskrit means a preceptor or a teacher or an instructor, one who has disciples and students whom he is teaching and instructing. In that sense, I am not a guru.
You do not accept disciples.
I am not having disciples for the reason that then I take a moral responsibility upon myself, which I cannot discharge satisfactorily, as I wish to devote my whole time to the research of the subject.
What would you say to a person who asked you if you were a guru and you had to send him away? What advice can you give to that person?
I would ask him if he belongs to Christianity to read his Bible, if he is a Hindu to read the Bhagavad Gita, if he is a Muslim to read the Quran, and to act on the basic teaching, leaving the dogma aside. The basic teaching which relates to how man should behave in the world, such as the instruction to be humble, to pray, to worship, to be loving, to love one's neighbor as oneself, to be compassionate, to be merciful, and to do his duties with the thought of God in his own mind. I think I would give him this advice.
Some people look for special signs and wonders as indications that this is the guru they are seeking. What indications can you give about the true guru?
His behavior through life must be in accordance with his own teaching, in the first place. In the second place, according to the Indian tradition, he must first give out his own experience, and that experience should be in a language which is inspired. That is the test.
Are psychic gifts an indication of the true
Psychic
guru?
gifts are not a conclusive sign of enlightenment. They are there, but they can also be in people who are not enlightened. Not only are not enlightened, but who may be pursuing ways of life which are not in conformity to spiritual ideals. The real test of enlightenment is revelation.
Can you explain that more fully?
Revelation means directions for humanity coming from cosmic consciousness. And that was why prophets were held in such high esteem throughout the past. They were vehicles for the collective consciousness of the race. This is the highest function of the enlightened, to see beyond the intellect, to give new ideas to the world, to explain the need for the ethical and moral values, to discuss God, and to try to create an atmosphere of peace and love on earth. This is what the prophets are meant to do, and this is also what the aspirants are meant to follow. There is already enough material in the religious literature of mankind which could suffice for all the students and aspirants after yoga. Enough of it. Only it is not used, and people want backdoor entries to the occult or to God, or some special favor, or some special trick, or some magical performance for which there is no provision in the constitution of man. Nature here is very rigid. She